Trip to St. Martin's to work.
Okay.
$3,000.
Good morning. Welcome, everyone. My name is Debbie Stewart. I am the Far West Ski Association Vice President of International Travel and have been for the last 10 years. Yay! I come to you with a travel background, which includes working for the Convention and Visitors Bureau in Visalia, and as a sales manager, banquet coordinator, convention coordinator, public relations director at the Sacramento Hilton Hotel. Helped open up that property. We have a very interesting program for you today, and our goal is for us to share our information with you as well as encourage audience participation. I am extremely proud and privileged to introduce to you our expert panelists for the Snow Sports Leadership Program. To my immediate left is Sean Mccarlen. He is the Vice President of Holiday Ski Tours and a ski and travel wholesaler specializing in group travel all over the world. He has been in the family business for over 30 years. Their company is recognized as one of the top tour operator travel companies in the United States by almost all and every major international tourist board. Make sure we get things started. This is not quite set up here. Let's move along. Gloria Woods started her ski industry background in the 1970s on the East Coast. She is currently the group sales manager with ski.com and is passionate about the travel industry and even more about her clients. To this day, she still has clients that have been working with her for over 25 years. One phrase that she says, and I've learned to adopt, is, "No worries, we'll take care of you." Sandy Gaudette. She is a ski travel industry veteran and expert. She has worked with Mobile's Mountain Travel and skigroup.net over most of the last 20 years. She prides her work with a group rebooking rate of over 90%. She has a deep knowledge in resort and lodging properties and air transportation and much more. And Maxine Jensen, known as Max. She's originally from the UK and she lived in 13 countries and 3 continents. Max has an exciting tourism career for over 34 years and has brought both sides of the aisle, which includes hotel and resorts in Europe, North America, and the Middle East. She is now the Director of Group Sales for Alpine Adventures. Max. As you can see, travel is our passion. So let's get started. I need to make a minor adjustment on my system. There's our panelists.
Getting with you with the technology.
Hey, I'm self-taught with this PowerPoint stuff.
Yeah.
So we're going to start off talking about the craziness and ever-changing world of travel. Max and I are going to start off addressing this. Essentially, we know things have changed and they will never go back to business as usual, the status quo. So that's there with us. Am I on?
So the one thing I would say, I, as Debbie mentioned, was previously in the hotel industry, and I worked with Sean and Gloria and Sandy putting together bids, and now I'm on the other side, so I'm reaching out to the suppliers to get the bids, and I realize how much effort and work that is, because I'm on the other side now. And I always, I feel that, and maybe this is just a change of the times, but in requesting group space, I feel that, the time they give you to commit to that space is getting shorter and shorter. So, maybe I was too lenient previously in my former life, because I would say, yes, we can give you 20 rooms or 50 rooms, and I never really made them say you have to commit by 2 weeks from now. But on this side of the fence, I'm seeing that hotels are saying you have to commit by, this offer is valid until 2 weeks from now. Sometimes it's even less than 2 weeks. So you think about, in your situation, how long it takes to really gather the information and relay that information to your clubs. It could take weeks, months sometimes, and I feel that that window is shortening. So if anything, I would urge people to understand that, because if we request rooms and the offer expires in 2 weeks from now, then we have to start from scratch and re-request 20, 50, 100 rooms and start all over again, and the price could be different. So that's the world that we live in today. It's different, a lot of the smaller, even the mom and pop hotels have got this new technology, revenue management. You see it all the time if you check, on Expedia or a flight, for flights. The price can change one day to the next.
Right.
That's happening even in the small hotels. Prices are changing. They're on a dynamic system where it's a kind of algorithm that changes the pricing, and so from sometimes even hourly, right? It can change hourly. So that's the world we live in. It's fast paced, it's forever changing.
Right.
And so I think, we're not going to go back to the way it was before.
Right. And we'll be getting back into the lodging aspect.
Okay, yeah, sorry. I was so excited.
I
got ahead of myself there.
A couple of things that those of you that are currently running trips, and matter of fact, who in the room currently runs trips for your clubs and councils? And for Far West? Yeah. Okay, fantastic. The things that we need to convey and let everyone have a really strong mindset is the fact that you need to have a contingency plan. You need to practice the art of pivoting. You need to have your plan B in place and not be confronted with the situation that, holy moly, now what do I do? So you need to be working with your valuable tour operators here, as well as those of you in the audience, to make sure that you, as an effective leader, handle each and every situation as professionally as possible, as well as presenting to your group, I've got you covered. And my famous statement from dealing with that last year was, I liken myself to that little duck floating on the pond, and your legs are going like a bat out of you know what, underneath the water. That's what we as trip leaders and travel directors want to make sure. We have things covered. We are working with government regulations that are constantly changing. We have contingency issues in our statements in our contracts that cover force majeure clauses, act of God, the impossibilities, things like that. As your elected VP, at any point in time, any of you tour leaders, travel directors, want to contact me and say, hey Deb, I've got this situation going, or how did you handle that, or I'm not sure about this, pick up the phone, call me, shoot me an email. I promise I will respond back to you. And we're in it together. We're here to provide the best quality service for all of our members, all of our club and council members. So it's really interesting. Hospitality has been hit very hard. It's one of the hardest industries through all this pandemic. And just recognizing that we are in a constant evolution. And we just need to continue to massage the situations and continue to move along with what the industry is doing, what the pandemics are doing. One of the things that I want to share with you guys here is a graph that identifies why participants are hesitant to travel. We know we've been dealing with the pandemic. We know that, well, as you can see, one of the highest percentages, the fact that the travel restrictions are off-putting to people. And they are challenging, they are specific, they may change from one day to the next, which I did experience in Europe this year. Once again, you need to have a good relationship with your tour operator. They're there to work with us and help us along the way. On the very bottom, the graph identifies the fact that we have, up until yesterday, we were required to do 24 hours prior to departure from anywhere to fly back to the United States. That has been taken off, and it will start tomorrow, I believe. And however, we're dealing with the pivoting, the evolution. It's a 90-day trial period, essentially. It is subject to being reinstituted at any point in time. If the pandemic, the COVID surge increases greatly, they can change their mind and reinstitute that. But right now, that is a strong selling point for us and you to let your people know this is going into effect. And we'll keep our fingers crossed that when we're...
play tomorrow.
You get on a plane tomorrow? Okay. And when are you coming home?
So I'm not going international.
Okay. So those are the things that we want to, just keep you aware of. One other thing in terms of the force majeure clause, we worked really hard to implement that into our contract with our tour operator. But as I said to our tour operator, I would love very much for you to implement that into your contract with your European or international vendors to protect you as well as protecting Far West.
Can you explain exactly what force majeure means? I kind of understand, but...
It is a clause that will provide and identify government shutdowns, act of God, war, situations that you do not have control over personally, yet we need to have something in place in order to not lose all your money.
Okay.
Be able to get your people out. It's the what if situation. And that's just very brief.
Right.
Okay. Let's move on. Safety and security, and I'm going to let Sean address a little bit of that.
Oh, good. Definitely need the cheat sheets for this. All right, so, yeah, basically, as Debbie stated, that they finally stopped the test coming into the U.S., which has been, a bane in our existence since it started. One of the main reasons people didn't want to travel international. Traveling overseas, from here, pretty much everywhere, with the exception of Portugal, you just need to be vaccinated. You don't need to have any tests or anything like that. The biggest thing that we recommend for safety and security is insurance. I know that this is probably a different topic we're covering, but I can't stress that enough. If this return policy comes back in effect about having to get tested, the insurance just saves you dramatically for everything that you can think of.
Read the fine print.
Yes. Yeah, there's several different options out there for the different insurance companies that you can get. So then, just trying to remember what else we talked about on this one here. Yeah, it's more of the fact that things are just getting better at the moment. That's the best way to look at it. The numbers are down for people that are getting sick, especially if you're vaccinated. Those that have been vaccinated that are getting it have very little symptoms. I know most of the people that have been stuck, which we probably, in total, about 100 people this year that were stuck in Europe because they tested and they got stuck there. Most of them had 0 to little symptoms at all, but you're positive and you just can't fly home. So that's basically covered most of that.
Okay, a couple of things. Don't worry about writing down the links. It's in your takeaway document that we will be giving you when you leave. Yes, ma'am.
Sorry to interrupt. I didn't see Todd Hood in here. So, evidently, everybody has to sign to get the certificates. Gina Casey sent me up here to give this to Todd Hood.
Okay.
I don't see Todd Hood.
Todd Hood is in room
Actually-
216. He's in the,
Wait,
or he will
it's
be.
okay, we're
Okay, just a second. We have it covered. We have a sign sheet. Thank you very much.
awesome, covered. Have fun, everybody.
One other thing, well, a couple of things. Back to the safety security. With the Far West annual scuba dive trip, which is for divers and non-divers, we do require that each participant, each diver, has the Divers Alert Network insurance. And it's a separate, sole and separate insurance just for divers. And it is not negotiable. You are required to have that and show proof of that.
Yeah.
And it is the highest level of dive insurance that one can have, and that is just something that is our normal protocol. So there are things that,
Covers hyperbaric chamber if you get the bends. You know,
there's all kinds of
it does
stuff
cover all kinds
involved.
of stuff,
Yeah.
but the bends is the worst. If you ever get
Yeah.
bent, you want to have that insurance because that can cost a lot.
And some of our destinations actually have them on site as well.
Yeah.
So when Randy and I work on the dive trips together, we are very, very critical,
Yeah.
being divers, to make sure that we are doing our best job for you and looking at high quality dive operations on site, so on and so forth. In terms of what to do, how to handle when you're abroad, what do I do when I have COVID? How do we handle our people? We had a situation where some of us were quarantined. And no, we were not deathly ill, yet we had to adapt. We had to pivot and handle the situation the best possible way. I recognized that I had my participants in a COVID quarantine hotel with me, as well as others at other properties. So I am spending each day communicating with them, making sure that they're okay, number one. But I recognized that there were some emotional instability situations starting to take place. And I thought, okay, it's my job take care of them. So I created a document that I emailed out to everyone, how to survive the COVID quarantine in Germany or anywhere, wherever you are. And so I sent this out to everyone. And it made a difference. So, you know.
Can you give us an example of what was on there?
Sure. First one, and typically Far West does not encourage religious and or political statements. However, I took the risk and said, give up your burdens to God. Stay positive. Keep those negative thoughts out of your mind. Also, stay off the TV and watching news all day. Ukraine war just broke out. And so here we are with limited TV selections. And it was the war after the war after the war. And they were already getting depressed. I'll just read to you my last statement. Remember, I presented a poem in my farewell event in Salton. And it said, life is a journey of sweetness and sorrow, of yesterday's pain, yesterday's memories, and hopes for tomorrow, of paths we chose and detours we face, with patience and honor, courage and grace, of joys that we shared and the people we've met who touched us in ways we will never forget. That, you know, take care of them, embrace them. We managed. People have emailed me and said that's the best trip I've been on. So if anyone wants a hard copy, I have it. I also will be happy to email that to you. I sent it to Sean when we were abroad, and he said, oh, wow, may I have permission to share that with my other trip leaders who are dealing with the same thing with their people in other countries? And I said, absolutely. So once again, the travel guidelines and things are changing too. You know, the testing, the rapid test, the PCR test, the mask, the this and that. Art of pivoting. Various countries have various rules, regulations, departments of ministry, pre-departure documentation. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. So do realize that that too is going to change on you. Okay. So this is my little document. Okay. Trip planning. We're going to have Gloria address that for us. That might be.
Okay. So as you're planning and arranging your trips, you know, a lot of people are very price sensitive. They said, oh, we went there 5 years ago and we paid this much. Sorry, those days are gone. They're just gone. You know, it is definitely a changing world. Prices, I mean, I don't even have to mention gas. That's the first one that's a pain for everyone. We're seeing price increases anywhere from 10 to 30 and above %. So if you thought you had sticker shock before, be prepared. It's going to be a bumpy ride, and it's not going back, because if if your properties that you're going to can see that they can get this price, they're not going back. I mean, it's just the way it is. But but there's still great deals, and that's why you're here, and that's why you travel on Far West ski travel group events, because those group leaders and directors do all possible to get you the best price for your trip. I mean, they're working with us, we're working with our suppliers, whether it's in Europe or or Canada or the US, we're there to help.
May I add something?
Pardon me?
May I add something?
Absolutely. It's your show.
Well, I'm going to speak to it. You know, we have various perspectives in the room. What I am required as the Far West VP is to submit RFPs to multiple companies. And I collate those proposals and we do a little analysis. And sometimes things are not quite what I'm thinking is going to serve our members the best. So, contrary to what we might hear from our panelists, but I'm going to share with you from my perspective, sometimes I have to send them back to sharpen the pencil. And that's okay. And that's okay. Sometimes, but you may feel like, well, this is what's being sent to me, and this is in stone. It's not. There are ways to work together to make it mutually beneficial. We may need to modify this section of your trip to get this price for that. So do keep in mind that you can be a good, effective negotiator, and it can be a win-win for all.
And in addition to that, flexibility. You know, don't put your dates in stone, because if you find that you can move it to this week or that week, sometimes there's a better deal on that date. So again, you know, Debbie's word, pivot, flexibility, we all have to do that. And you know, we're going to give you the best possible price we can, but sometimes you can do things like, well, you know, maybe if we shorten the time, maybe if we stay a night less, maybe if we don't stay right at the mountain, and you know, but we're on a shuttle route that stops right at the door of the hotel. Those are things that can help you. So don't be rigid, because we're here to help you, you know, create the best possible experience for your group. And so we'll work with you as long as you can be flexible as well.
One of the things that has been asked of me is to kind of ask you folks, because we're having to make modifications on trips, is there anyone in the room that can share with me how they manage collecting funds for your trip that are unused? Meaning, on our North American trip, we had in our contract XYZ as far as events and monies dedicated towards those activities. And as it resulted with the pandemic and COVID situations, we were not able to execute them as we had originally planned. And we you know, we're planning a year and a half out. Does anyone have any feedback as to how you handle refunding your members, providing gift cards, or we're looking for some additional options? Norbert.
As the treasurer for LA Council, when I received the last refund that Far West sent out for that trip, I just sat down and wrote 35, invited it equally by 35, and wrote down and mailed out 35 checks. That's all. Everybody got exactly the same amount of money. If there was a couple, then it was double that amount, but and by the time I was through, the only thing it cost my council was postage stamps.
Chris?
Yeah, we did the same thing. We sent the travel.
And with the North American trips, those are essentially handled through the councils for the North American Ski Week trip. So I will clarify that. Bill?
So we give our ski trip coordinator and our captains some flexibility in that. Depending on what the actual budget works out versus what we charge, we might convert a happy hour at a bar to a group dinner in a condo and pay for that. We look for different value-added things to add into the trip other than just writing checks. And it seems to have the effect of it gives us a little bit more flexibility than just having our treasurer write 30-some checks. And at the same time, the people who ski with us see the trips as like, wow, we got a lot of value added. We've got this little cool side trip. We got a meal. We got this. We got that. We've actually increased our participation on ski trips by thinking in terms of value added, and usually that's what we use our money. whenever possible.
I personally, in Germany, had to make some adjustments, and I took everyone out to lunch. I
Yeah.
spent that money on them,
Exactly.
you know?
So, yeah, we had a happy hour planned in Steamboat in March, and we looked at the budget. I took that and we did actually Jimmy did a spaghetti dinner. So people didn't have to go out, save them money. It had a group environment for us. That's the kind of thing. Linda, I think, may have already split. She was our trip coordinator at the time. She's really gifted at that. If you guys want some ideas, talk to her because she's really good at that.
Monica?
In the Reno Club, over the last few years, trip leaders have been picking resorts that were either under the Icon or Epic Pass, which a lot of members were already buying anyway. So for them, there was that much less of a fee to go on a trip because they were already going to have the skiing paid for.
And I think our industry and the trends are definitely going into the past programs. We'll be addressing that also. Chris, last question and we'll move on.
Yeah, so
Stay.
not for Snowmass, but for previous trip, Northwest basically gave anybody who went on that particular trip, if we had an excess, we said, we can use that towards your deposit for next year's trip, instead of giving everybody a check. It wasn't a large amount, so it was easier. This year, because it was a pandemic-related thing, we were like, we're giving everybody their money back. But in the future, we may look at, okay, we have the same people go on the same trips, and we give them 2 years to use that credit.
That's it.
So if they don't go, you know, like, I'm not going to Jackson Hole this year, but I will go next year.
And how many people are you talking that you're?
I think we had 25, so it wasn't a really big number.
Because that could affect.
Yeah, exactly.
Logistics and bookkeeping and fiscal years and calendar years and things
It
like
does
that.
impact the bookkeeping part of it, for sure.
If you're using Club Express and you're doing refunds through Club Express's payment system, you're paid by credit card, it automatically generates a credit. And I know that we have had members who had to cancel a trip and they've had a credit because we took another trip. So,
Okay, thank you for your feedback. I appreciate that. A couple of things regarding your trip documents. You want to make sure that your typeface is no smaller than 6 points. Legally, which is teeny tiny to begin with, but
It's microscopic.
legally, it cannot be smaller than that, and you may not be aware of that. Also, we have a lot of information to get on those documents, to try to keep it all on one page, even though my packet's 8 pages long. But you need to be aware of that. That is something really important. You also want to make sure that you have proper disclaimers on your documents. I am aware of. You know, it's real tricky in terms of I understand, I have read, you know, consult legal advice when you're putting together your registration documents, because again, it can protect you or come back and not protect you. Some clubs have shared with me that they ask their participants if they are vaccinated or not. If they do, then they will say, are you willing, excuse me, are you willing to room with someone who is not vaccinated? So, again, that's up to your own club. When Far West puts together their documents and sends them out to their, like for example, North American trip, we also, and international, we try to provide additional information of what to do in the area, what else is available, what else is other activities if you're not going to ski that day or you're not going to go on a tour that day. Be careful to be sensitive to not endorsing this company. We have no relationship with the independent tour operator that runs a snowmobile trip. So you want to make sure that you identify that as for informational purposes only. So protect yourself in that way also. Okay, let's talk about insurance just a little bit more.
Me? Is that
Yes,
me?
I think
Okay. All right. Okay, insurance. So every tour operator that you work with has their own programs. Insurance is anywhere from 6.5% or slightly more for basic standard coverage. There's also cancel for any reason insurance, which is double the amount of what you will pay for that insurance policy. And if it's a general, if it's a basic reason that's already covered, at least you get 100% back if you buy standard basic insurance. But if you buy cancel for any reason, you only get back 75% of your spend. So I personally don't promote it. I think it doesn't make sense. Sean, you agree? Everybody agree? It just doesn't make sense.
But some people do buy it.
But some people prefer to buy it, and they're okay with losing 25% of their $2,000 spend. Whatever. The point is, buy insurance. So I'll just briefly touch on this because lift tickets are in another section. But like when you buy an Epic Pass, it comes with Epic Assurance. Read the fine print. Read it, because it doesn't always cover everything you think it does. So it's really important.
Can you give us an example of that?
Well, I mean, I actually had a client coming from Guatemala, and he bought an insurance, he bought an Epic Pass, and their travel assurance company would not refund their money, even though he said that my country would not allow me to travel because of the pandemic. There was some little clause in there somewhere, and he wasn't covered. So of course he's upset with me because I sold him his pass, but I can't, I can't manage that part of it. There are things sometimes that are out of our control, and you do have to understand that. We'll do everything we can and fight with the insurance company. I mean, and I've been back and forth at least 20 times between Vail Resorts and the Vail Insurance product, but it's not my forte. I mean, we all sell you insurance, we just sell the product. We are not insurance agents. If you have a specific question about your coverage, we will direct you to the person at the company that we're using to get that information answered, because then if we misstate it, you say, well, you told me that I could do this, and it's like, nope. So that's, again, as Debbie said, read the fine print, and God knows those insurance policies are more than Debbie's 8 pages. They're 23 or 26.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And to add to that,
Yes.
also, typically your tour operator that you are working with commonly sells trip insurance. And I want to be very polite, and I want to be very respectful to our capitalists. However, do your research, find the best option for you, which may or may not be the product that they are selling. There are many people that will commonly go with the program that our tour operator is selling for many reasons. But do your research. Protect, and that's an individual thing. As a trip leader, people ask me, well, who do you use? Who do you recommend? We provide information. Far West does not sell travel insurance. I do highly recommend it, and I will point out some key points in travel insurance that I feel is important, such as medical evacuation, expatriation. If we have someone injured on the hill and we need to get a helicopter in Switzerland, we want to make sure that they have good insurance to help cover that $25,000 bill, things like that. So again, when people do ask you, you can guide them. I can't sell them, nor do I choose to. It is a very complex industry. I think they make it that way, make it hard for them. Yes, sure.
I just want to add one more thing to the insurance too, that a lot of people may not realize. The insurance will cover you for medical reasons. It will not cover you because you're afraid to travel. So if you're going to cancel your trip because you're just concerned, you're not going to get, unless it's canceled for any reason, and that has to be done, you have to cancel outside of 48 hours prior to your departure for that. But if you just get the regular insurance, but you're concerned, let's say they bring back the test and you're like, oh, I'm concerned I might get stuck there. You will not be covered. It's only medical reasons unless it's to cancel for any reason.
And the CDC strongly advises travelers to buy travel medical insurance. If you are on Medicare or Medicaid, it will not cover you out of the United States. So again, you think, well, I get myself covered here, I'll take my Medicare card. It's not going to cover you over there. Yes?
Yeah, a couple of comments. Regarding medical insurance, even the private carriers like Blue Cross and the Blues, Anthem, all of those, do not cover you medically if you are traveling. You're out of network. Some people think out of network works, but international travel for those companies still usually doesn't work, in addition to Medicare. And when I did a couple of trips during the pandemic, and I picked hotels that included 14 days of free hotel stay if you tested positive while you were staying at their hotel. So the people that were on my trip didn't have to worry about it. It's like, you test positive, you stay in your room. So that was a big plus. And I also strongly encourage people that are buying insurance if they're on one of my trips. I always call them and say, if you're gonna buy insurance, if you travel a lot, consider buying annual travel insurance, which is what I carry for myself. And I carry a higher rate of insurance. You can set your policy reimbursement at 2, 3, or whatever amount you want to cover. The likelihood you're going to cancel several trips is very low. So if you buy annual travel insurance, for instance, I have $7,000 of trip cancellation coverage. It has medical insurance. The company that I buy it from gives you an embassy letter that covers you in case of war or in case of COVID, which you can request them to send you a separate letter in addition to your insurance and say, give me an embassy letter to keep in my file when I travel. So they will give you that if you request it, but you have to request it. And I pay $700 for myself and my husband, and we have $7,000 of annual coverage, which includes $3,000 of trip interruption and baggage and medical insurance and all of that. So for $700 for both of us, we're covered for the year. And maybe we'll cancel one trip in a year, but maybe we won't. But that's $7,000 worth of trip interruption. Much cheaper than spending $250 or $300 for one trip.
What's the name of the company?
I use Allianz, A-L-L-I-A-N-Z.
Yeah. Which is a very common program.
Yeah, they have the best. They're better than Travel Guard and the other ones price-wise. And during COVID, in 2020, when COVID hit, they actually sent a letter to those of us that had annual insurance and said, would you like prorate your money back if you're not going to travel the rest of the year? Which was very nice. They didn't have to do that, but they offered, if you want to prorate the rest of your insurance, we understand that there's a pandemic and you might not travel. So they're very proactive.
Okay, we have some additional content here.
Okay, and then one other point in reference to buying cancel for any reason. In most policies, you have to buy that the day you put your deposit down.
Yeah.
So you can't do it 2 weeks before and say, oh, I want to buy cancel for any reason. Doesn't work. It just doesn't work. So I just want to mention that, that there are those restrictions.
One more thing too, actually, also on a couple of different policies, I ran into this before, like Debbie said, do your research and look at different policies. Somebody came up to me and said that they found something that was much less than what we had. And then as we looked at it, it had a lot of things that it didn't have. And you indicate, they had, like, check this, and then quarantine was on there. And it was like another $45 added to the trip. So if you are looking, make sure everything is on there. You're comparing apples to apples. 200 or like a $1.5 million repatriation emergency evacuation, where this one was $250,000.
Right.
you know, which is probably still enough, but just
You
in
gotta get
case.
what you pay for.
Exactly.
Right. So that's why I have our armored guy up here.
Yeah.
That is the protection. Yes.
And one more remark, I have a secondary, on Medicare, I have a secondary insurance. They will pay for healthcare abroad, we just came back from Europe, but they told us, by the way, you have to pay and they will reimburse you. So people have to be really careful. Even though they pay for it, like you said, if you have to be evacuated for $25,000, you have to be able to pay that. And then get reimbursed when you come back.
Right. I have paid to get people out of the hospital
I believe.
in Morocco, in South Africa. You just have to be prepared. That's the whole thing, is be prepared, you know, and be as flexible as possible. I'm going to change the subject slightly because I want to address club and council liability insurance. It is really, really important. If your club does not have the liability insurance and you're running trips, you really need to rethink your situation. Tucker, do you want to address that at all? Club council? No? No, thank you. Okay. Something else that is very important and in many cases overlooked is the seller of travel certification. And I know he knows that, but I'm not going to ask him. But there are certain states that are required. If you are running trips and you are selling to travelers in those states, you are required to have the seller of travel insurance. And there's also the TCRC component. You want to address that?
Yeah, because we have both of that. If you're running trips, it's important.
Maybe turn around so they can hear you.
Yeah, it's important to have a seller of travel. You cannot collect money. You cannot use your address to collect money if you don't have a seller of travel in California. And you're protected because the TCRC, which is the Travel Restitution Fund, if you're dealing with a travel company, tour operator, and they go under, you can file with the TCRC and get whatever you've lost refunded back to your members. So it's really a cheap insurance because it costs like $100 a year, and then every so often when the fund has been used and they have to rebuild the fund, they'll ask all the different travel agents, you have to put in money to bring the fund back up to where it's supposed to be. But if you don't have that seller of travel, you could be operating illegally. So watch out. Yeah, you have
It's
to
an
renew
annual
every year.
renewal
Every year.
for each component.
Each one, yeah. Back in first.
Yeah.
So, are there questions about that? Because this is really important. I want to make sure we cover that clearly and it's fully understood because
So-
it is critical.
So, obviously Northwest, you've got Washington on there, but Northwest mailing address is Oregon. But I could be selling to somebody who lives in Washington. Does that matter? Do I need a seller of travel for somebody who lives in Washington?
Gloria?
Yeah, the state of Washington requires the seller of travel. So you might want to check into that because Washington does have a seller of travel.
Okay.
A lot of states are going to that where you have to have a seller of travel license if you're collecting any funds. Because in the past, a travel agent could collect money and they go bankrupt and you're out, you've lost.
Okay.
But with the TCRC, you're now covered.
But I'm not, so most of the trips that we're running for my council, is a Far West trip. So I'm collecting money through the Far West.
No, actually, you're collecting money through your council.
Yeah.
The council is paying Far West.
Correct.
I'm going to take another question. I'm not going to fully answer that, and I have a thought.
Okay.
I think we had, did you have a question?
I helped answer it.
Help, yeah.
Got it.
Good for you. Yeah, Norbert.
We ran into that when they were first started with the seller of travel, because we had people from Arizona joining LA. It's imperative that I know it sounds ridiculous, but past experience from what I've learned, as far as travel goes nowadays, I don't care what state you're in, you really should have this PCR travel, this insurance, because you might have somebody from another state, and that could come back and bite you in the end.
So the reason why I'm belaboring this issue is we have very regularly stated, you need to have, in our case, California, you need to have the CST, California Seller of Travel, and there are other states. I'll come to you in just a second. We have stated that, and it's been in writing, but I'm concerned that it's not fully understood, it's not regularly complied with by clubs and could be councils, don't know. What I am thinking personally is, for those of you that would like to learn more about it, those of you that would like to be included in a Zoom meeting, a conference call, something that we could work together to make sure that we are doing our due diligence at the association level, and we're educating you for club and council protection. I would like to offer that to you, and maybe we could do a follow-up with those of us who are familiar, including Nancy with us. Then we could follow up with you on a more individual basis and see if we can get you compliant and make sure that everyone's taken care of properly.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I just wanted a clarification, because we do have an insurance, but being in California now, if we sell to the Washington person, that same insurance will cover those other states that require the insurance as well. That I want to make sure.
Yeah. So let's regroup on that, because it's a real complicated scenario, and because Far West represents 13 western states, we've got a lot of variables there. So that's how I would kind of like to handle that going forward. You guys can email me, or I'll be sending you a little email afterwards, and see if we can all work together on it. Because I think it's been addressed, but not fully understood.
Correct.
Okay? Yes.
Yeah, one last thing. A couple of years ago, the Far West Board, we had a lot of questions for the Seller of Travel program in California. And I put together a whole list of questions that were hard to understand. You didn't know, do you have to have a license in this state and that state and all these other things. So I sent this list of questions to the Attorney General's office in Los Angeles, and that's who you deal with. They refused to answer them. They would not answer the questions because I don't think they had answers for those questions.
However, we did seek legal counsel also. So we are trying to cover ourselves as well and be as well informed as possible. So we'll be readdressing that with you guys.
Thanks.
Okay? And that's our job. That is our job at the association level. Make sure that we're here and we are a resource for you. Okay, moving along. Air and ground transportations. You guys,
Yep.
two of you, Gloria and Sean.
Sure.
My next cheat sheet.
Yeah, that's kind of easier, thanks. Okay, so air. So here we go. It's our favorite subject. It's so fun. So many things are changing with air. You need to book in advance. Some airlines will allow you to hold space without a deposit. Some airlines will ask for a non-refundable upfront deposit, anywhere from $150 to $300 for that block of space. Non-refundable, 50 seats, non-refundable. Okay, but that's just for the block of space. So, but you do have the flexibility of being able to reduce the number of seats that you've held at no penalty up to a certain date. Within that date, then you normally have to provide use of 90% of what you're holding or pay a penalty for each seat that you don't cover. But space is difficult these days due to the pandemic, and the other new term that we're all dealing with is called pent-up demand for travel. There are less seats, you know, there's staffing issues, there's cancellations, all of those terrible issues that we all deal with, but we are here to help you get through it when it does happen. So the policies are changing, as you know, with either deposits or just like Max mentioned earlier, you block this space, you may have to come up with that deposit in a shorter time than what you're used to. And basically, you know, air prices are not going down, guys. They just aren't. I mean, the prices are increasing. Just, you know, I've talked to several of you who had to fly from a short distance to get here to Portland, and the fare, my fare from Denver to Portland was $800. Okay, I'm just, you know, it wasn't fun, but we want to be here and we have to make it happen. But, you know, not every fare is $800. So, you know, I know it sounds high, but group travel is still affordable, and we can still negotiate rates because we have contracts with our air carriers, and the flexibility of getting you the best policies that we can as far as deposit dates and number of seats. But I don't know, Sean?
Yep. Yeah, I would just also add that, again, as Debbie kept saying, pivoting, be flexible. Certain days of the week are going to have better airfares than other days of the week, especially domestically. Certain cities too, like if you're closer to one city, but you don't mind an hour drive to a different airport, it could be much cheaper from that airport. I'm in New Jersey, so I have Newark, JFK, and Philadelphia all within an hour of my house. Different fares, even LaGuardia. I can fly out of LaGuardia for $415 here, or I flew out of Newark for $900. And it's a difference of 30 minutes. So if you have that flexibility of different airports, that helps as well. And then when you're dealing with domestic destinations where you're going to fly into cities like Gunnison or Telluride, you're going to pay the premium prices. There's no way around it. The other thing that comes up too is, as Gloria indicated, is seats. Some of the airlines are not giving the number of group block seats that we used to be able to get in the past. So especially domestically, at least I'm finding that.
Like 35, yeah, approximately 35 seats based on the size of the aircraft. So if it's a CRJ and only has a total of 50 seats for sale, they're not going to give us the full plane. We might get 32. So you need to be flexible. So perhaps if you're traveling with a group of 60, you're going to split them and have them, you know, half come in at this time and half come in at another time. The other thing too is tour conductors. Everybody knows what a tour conductor is? That's a complimentary seat if you book a certain amount of tickets. However, it's truly not free because they charge the tax for that. If you're going to Europe and you have I'm going to just make these numbers up, please don't come back to me, but say you paid, okay, say you paid $1,100 for that ticket. The tax on that ticket could be $700. Could be. I'm just letting you know that. So your tour conductor ticket for your comp, and I'm sure we're going to cover those in another section, is going to still cost you $700. So it's not free. Just need to mention that. You know, and I'm not trying to be doom and gloom. We all love what we do. We're passionate about this industry, and we make it work the best way we know how for all of you. And you have to make it work the best way you know how for your participants.
2 points that I want to revisit with you guys, because I think it's really important. You may or may not be aware that these tour operators, travel companies, typically have contracts with various airlines. And it may not be all of them. It may be certain international carriers that fly internationally as well as domestic. And so when they are researching for us, and you may have participants say, do we have the squirrel? Oh, we had a squirrel over here. They may say, well, I want to fly on British Airways with the group. You know, well, that may not be the airlines that your operator currently has contracts with. And I don't know how often those are renegotiated, but I know that they are presented to you. And so you may or may not be aware that's how it works with them who are working for us.
Actually, Debbie brought up a perfect example. British Air actually is a really good example. That sometimes, let's just say flying for British Air is going to be cheaper than using my club wants United, my club wants Delta. We can get you a better fare on British Air or TAP or something like that. But keep in mind, with lower prices comes ridiculous group restrictions. British Air is one of them that is just nuts. You cannot do anything with your seats until you check in. So all these people that want, well, I want my aisle seat, I want this seat, you can't do anything. There's no way around it. There's nothing the tour operator can do. It's British Air's rules. Check in, then you can get your seats. That's it. So, yeah, and ticketing is up to like 90 days prior now for some airlines. So United is another one that wants ticketing very early. So other things just to keep in mind, be flexible, pivot again.
Also, in regards to providing accurate information on your transportation list, I do my stuff on spreadsheets. I require every person that's buying group air from Far West to provide their passport, a clear, crisp, legible copy of their passport. And then I take that information, I put it into my spreadsheet, but I also, and I have all of the participants actually for lodging information as well. I know there are some clubs that do not do that, and you want to make sure that you have yourself protected well. I also send copies I scan them and send them to our tour operator. So they've got the copy. If they have any questions, I can't read your handwriting, or this doesn't make sense. And people have put in their own birthday incorrectly on the document. Yeah, their name, it needs to be exactly as stated on your passport. So we require, and it's a no-brainer for Far West. We don't have any issues with that, but I have been called by trip leaders who have expressed to me, well, they don't want to surrender that information to us. Well, you know, it's not negotiable from my standpoint. So,
Yes. So name changes, let's talk about those. I mean, Bob Smith, his name is Robert, but it gives you the name as Bob Smith. You issue the ticket, all of a sudden, didn't look at it until the day before he's flying. Yep. Now we've got to make that name change, okay? And name changes are not free, okay? Because not only, you know, and it depends on when that name change occurs. So some airlines will allow you to make a name change up until 4 business days, 4 prior to travel. However, if it's international, you need more time. And whether, you know, like you get 1 free name change, but think about this, guys. It's not free for us. We've got to get someone in our department to go through that and make the changes, whether it's on the, you know, on the website, talking to somebody at the airline, and reissuing that ticket. So that's going to, you know, again, you know, I've now made a policy where you can have one free name change. Everyone after that is gonna cost you $50. So it's imperative that you get the correct name for your people. Whether it's international or domestic, it has got to match that ID that they're traveling. Exactly. And the
Most internet, I mean, when we do international, you guys require passport copies. I do the same thing as Deb, right?
Yeah. But not all clubs.
Right.
I know that they require it,
Yes.
not for, you know, when you're in the US.
Right. But maybe what we should do is require a copy of your driver's license or whatever ID you're going to use to travel, so we get it right the first time. Because it's so much work for your trip lead, for you guys as trip leaders, you know, especially when people forget to look at their documents.
Well, then you've got the real ID issue. and stuff like that,
Exactly,
too.
exactly.
One other point, getting back, the time frame for deposits. That can be kind of a tricky thing, because I don't know how often your club meets when you make decisions, the board meets. They're trying to work on a very tight time frame to represent us, and we may not have a meeting until July to make a decision there. So be very sensitive to your time frame as to when that decision is, that proposal is approved by your board, and then you may need to get money off that next day to this tour operator to stay within that time frame. Does that make sense to you guys? Is that something that you can take back to your board and let them know? Again, I will be addressing that with our board after Sunday's conclusion in our little board meeting, because it's different now. It's just going to be different now.
Going back to the travel document,
Yes.
not just check the name, but check the expiration date.
Oh, check everything. Birth date, sex.
Oh, yes or no?
Yes.
Sorry, I was joking.
Gender.
Gender is a better word.
And sex.
Gloria, sometimes people don't check that, and their name is a male or female name. I mean, a lot of women that have.
A lot of parents.
I got that.
So that's happened to me where I didn't know the person and I didn't know if it was male or female.
That's exactly why I won't process anyone until I have a copy of the passport. It is pending until I have all those documents, because we have to be really, really careful. Yes.
I when I went back to home to Finland, and my passport was like close to the closing time. I came back before it was old, but I had to get a new passport before I went. So you have to pay attention. I think they require the 6 months.
Commonly it is 6 months.
Yeah.
After, let me go to that. 6 months
Before the return.
after your last return date.
Right, right.
Not your departure date, but your return date.
Return date, yes.
And when you are applying or renewing your passport, give yourself plenty of time, because there is a delay, a lag in that processing. Jane?
Hi. As far as the airlines, I recall many times that the travel company would say you cannot upgrade your ticket. You know, you're only getting an economy ticket. Why is that?
Easy answer. Commonly, and I'm going to defer to these guys, but what I have learned, commonly when we're booking group air, it is at a more economy class. There are class of services on the aircraft, and that typically will get us our better price, and most often they are not upgradable or changeable. Am I correct?
Yep.
Absolutely. Okay, so that pretty much is your answer.
If I can just add one more thing, you can, and for most airlines, not all of them, you can upgrade by payment. But if you want to use frequent flyer miles, I think that's the main question you're asking, to upgrade with miles, that's what they won't allow you to do. But you could always buy the upgraded to premium economy or economy plus or Delta plus or business class. Those are, not always, that's why I said, not every airline will do it. In some cases you can.
So how I handle that, Jane, is if one is wanting to buy group air, which I highly recommend, especially like next year's trip is going to be logistically very strategic. What I encourage them to do is to travel with us on a group plan, because we will take care of all the various entities. Once their ticket is issued and I provide that information to them, oftentimes people will go online with their e-ticket number, their confirmation number, their locator number, their name into the airline's website. If it's upgradable at that point, they will do that themselves. Some people will do that when they get to the airport, and sometimes it does not work. So it just depends on the situation.
That's good to know.
Yes?
So my understanding, and I want clarification on this, is sometimes group air does not include equipment coming with you. So can you clarify how you guys negotiate whether or not you can bring your equipment with you if you use group air?
We don't have much negotiating power on that. The airlines have their rules. So if you know what the baggage allowance is with the particular airlines, then you know what the rule is there.
Yeah, well, baggage is not included on most tickets, other than flying on Southwest where you're still getting 2 free bags. Nobody else offers it. I mean, it is not, domestically, it is not included. There are some international contracts that allow you 1 bag, sometimes. And in most cases, you know, in most airlines, I think across the board, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but skis and boots are considered 1 piece of luggage. So, you know, the baggage fees.
Combined weight.
That's correct. And the baggage fees are up to the individual traveler to pay at, you know, at check-in. So quickly we can talk about check-in for groups.
Sure.
So some airlines will allow you as a group domestically to check in advance, you know, or check in online or, you know, individually as you're ready to travel. Some airlines, absolutely not. United, you cannot check in advance. You have got to get to the airport and check in that day. And then that's when you can, you know, pay for your bags, because I know a lot of people like to try to save some money and buy baggage in advance, because online it's maybe $5 cheaper, but on a group ticket, it doesn't normally work. International is slightly different in different cases, but we all have to deal with whatever the rules are that they give us.
And when I'm questioned about that, I tell people, go online and look at it, because it may vary. Gloria.
I was just gonna say the same thing. Go check the baggage rules online, because each airline has their own rules.
And they change.
And they change every day.
Yeah, and it has happened to me where I've gone to the airport to check in with skis and boots, and they wanted to charge me 2 bags.
Yep.
And I had to go to their luggage rules online if the person didn't know.
Yes.
And I ended up paying for what.
Right. And typically, we used to put that information out in advance, but due to the fact that things are changing so quickly, we don't do that in writing, because they're going to say, you have this in the guidebook, you know, and tomorrow it's different. No.
The other thing in relation to that, particularly for the international travel, is particularly nowadays, you have got to get to that airport very early, because you have absolutely no idea how much trouble you're going to have at the international and check-in.
Yes, early.
Yeah. And just another quick point, with all the changes we've had because of the pandemic, some of the people who are employed at the airport know less about your trip than you do.
That's very true.
Yes, and they may not know the rules, like Gloria said, you know, they tried to charge her this amount and she had to go, you know, like we all have smartphones and we can get to the, you know, the baggage rules, And that person who just started yesterday doesn't know that skis and boots are one piece of luggage, and they're gonna wanna try to charge you more money. So you need to be your own advocate, you need to be smart, and you need to be really nice. You need to be really nice, because if you stand at that counter and yell at that person, they will not do anything for you. They have to become
They'll
your...
make sure your baggage goes somewhere else.
Exactly. They have to become your best friend.
Sandy, I'm just gonna ask if there's anything, because you deal a lot with air.
Yeah.
Yeah, I find out airlines are all different. I do tell groups in the winter, since we are ski council, ski clubs, if I make sure they tell all their people that skis and a regular size boot bag count as one piece of luggage, not a giant boot bag. And if you put some clothes around your skis, be careful, don't make it too thick. Some airlines do not accept that, like American or something too. Because we have employees, the right hand doesn't know what the left hand's doing. I do tell them too, if they want to charge you for 2 bags with skis and a boot bag, ask for a supervisor. You could do that too, and they'll know that skis and boot bag. But I'm not sure, Sean, Alaskan Airlines used to only allow one. They didn't allow skis and boot bag as one piece of luggage. I'm not sure if it's changed yet, as our airlines keep changing every day.
They were doing, when we flew to Big Sky, they were taking skis and boots.
They were, yeah, because at one time they
That was what, 2 years ago, so they're not looking at it.
One more question on this topic, and then we're moving on.
So I have a special United credit card that gives me free luggage. Will that work with group travel?
Yeah, I have a client, I do a lot of Carolina clubs, they have Delta. So if you use that credit card, some United allow 4 travelers for free luggage. Delta, I think, is 5. So some of the flights, when you check in with that credit card, will allow you free luggage.
Okay.
However, it just varies. There's another caveat.
Yeah.
If you buy a group ticket, your ticket is not paid for with your credit card. So when you go to check in, they're not seeing your credit card, you're not going to get that benefit. Trust me, I just paid $80 to get my luggage here, and I'm in this industry.
Okay, so
Right.
the other question I had is, do you collect everybody's like frequent flyer numbers? Because that's usually
Absolutely.
how I get my free luggage. They
Absolutely.
use my frequent flyer number and it's connected to my credit card.
Yeah. You should be providing all of that information. Your
Okay.
tour operator should provide you with a list, which
And all these
asks for
numbers.
all the information, known traveler numbers, and frequent flyer numbers.
And they also have on the airline list redress numbers. I get clubs putting all these numbers, and I said it's impossible to have that many redress numbers. We legally have to put it on the airline. A redress means if my son-in-law's name is Wayne Smith, if there's a criminal on a do not fly list, they give that person, the non-criminal, my son-in-law, a redress number, so he's not stopped at security on a do not fly list. So I've never seen one yet. I don't know if Sean and Gloria have, but it is on the airline list if someone does have a redress number.
Okay, one last question.
The global entry and known traveler numbers, I list them, you know, the group, thing you have to list on, but they don't necessarily come through. I wonder if there's a way to guarantee that they actually come through on the person's ticket when they check in at the airport.
And you're providing your information to who?
Oh, Southwest, Alaska Airlines, whoever I've got for.
So you're doing it individually or for a group?
For a group, on a group air ticket.
That's just someone not doing their job.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that happens a lot. That's just somebody at the airline not doing their job. It's, you know, another minute of keystrokes that they don't feel like doing. Unfortunately, it happens a lot.
Yeah. Because we do provide the airlines with every bit of information you give us. So, you know, we will list the, you know, the frequent flyer numbers, the known traveler numbers, or global entry numbers, And as Sean said, somebody just doesn't want to work hard that day and spend an extra minute to enter the
Yeah,
information.
because I had 2 people miss my last flight, and they couldn't get through it. We had to leave at 5 a.m. They don't even have anybody at the desk to help you, and they didn't get their non-traveler member listed, and they missed one.
If you keep your boarding pass, so a lot of airlines make mistakes. We don't like to be blamed when they make a mistake or the trip leader doesn't. Make sure you did get the credit, but always keep the boarding pass until you're sure you got the credit after you travel.
For the frequent flyer mile.
For the frequent flyer mile.
Their non-traveler member wasn't listed on their.
Right, so they didn't get TSA pre-check.
Yeah.
They didn't get TSA pre, yeah.
Yeah, that happens. I mean, we all deal with problems with the airlines now.
Okay, let's move along. Let's talk about lodging a little bit more in detail, Sandy.
Okay, we're all facing it. All the ski areas, the ones with condos, are losing a lot of their inventory on the condos. The owners are either selling them, some have even moved into them during the epidemic, or they find out they can get more money on Airbnb with the property management. So I am finding that so many ski areas have lost half their inventory. They're only allowing 1 group per week, a lot of them. They're booking up really fast. Also, deposits. Example, Crested Butte Vail owns that lodging. I had a club with just 28 pillows, and Crested Butte in 2 weeks wanted a $10,000 deposit. I split it with the club, but because they wanted it so bad, but it's getting really bad on deposits. We do not have control if they want a deposit in 2 weeks, a month. Like Debbie mentioned earlier, pay attention to, I know sometimes you guys have meetings once a month, but they may only hold that lodging, or it's available. They give us a week to hold it, or 2 weeks for it, but prices aren't what they were. Cancellation policies, each area is different. Some of them are getting really bad. Big Sky, as we all know, July 1st, you have to reduce. Beyond July 1st, it's a 10% penalty. Below 10%, it's a penalty. And it literally says to be determined what penalty they want to charge. They've gone up probably 35% in their rates for Big Sky. And some of the other areas have too. So it's not a pretty picture with inventory. Hotel space isn't bad. It's when you're involved condos that they're losing their inventory on condos and what's available. Snowmass, you have to book. Already they're booking part of their winter for 2024 is half booked for Snowmass for clubs that are requesting it right now. And then Snowmass just informed me, and I'm sure Sean and Gloria just found out, they won't even allot inventory till after July 1st to see what they have available for 2024. So it's getting harder and harder. You don't see the cheaper trips. When clubs give me ski areas, that you may give 3 ski areas you want to decide on, right away I tell them which one has good cancellation policies and which one don't, because it may make a difference of what you pick for the ski area. Also, when they talked about air, I had an Ohio club, Kalispell's hard air. They picked Tuesday. That air went down $300 a person to travel Tuesday to Kalispell. So it's just on the pricing of your lodgings. I try to show the whole ground rate to everybody and see what is involved, but I do definitely warn the clubs if they pick an area that has bad cancellation policies, or I show them what it is before that club decides on them.
2 things. I would never, ever propose to the Far West Board of Directors a proposal that said TBD. Debbie doesn't do that. I don't play that game.
To be decided.
When we were preparing for this, we had a a virtual meeting, we've had multiple email communications, we've sent drafts back and forth, and the majority of the content has come from these experts. It's really interesting who's leading the cart. Is the horse pulling the cart? Is the cart pulling the horse? Max and I had an interesting little conversation about that. We know things are changing. Will it evolve back around? Will it be accepted universally by all clubs and councils and travelers? We don't know. All we know is that there is a certain amount of mindset that is a precursor to what we're experiencing now. And what I mean by that is they lost money during the pandemic. And now we're going to try to make it up. Is that fair and accurate to the travelers? I'm not sure. I'm not sure. When we're talking pricing, the pricings are going up. Is there a certain level of greed? Personally, I think so. The revenue management program, I'd like you to share that with the group, because that may not be, that's kind of new in our awareness with the industry.
So, previously in lodging, and, I would just make the rates up. I could do what I wanted, it was easy. And I think that's how I got the groups, because I just made them up. Oh yeah, that sounds good, 99, yeah, that's fine. But, then companies, corporations, great big corporations, everything is becoming more corporate. And there are these new technology systems that people are selling to hotels and resorts, and it's designed to maximize revenue. So I know horrible words, right? Maximizing revenue.
And the airlines do that.
Yeah,
that's how they
airlines are doing it. Vail Resorts, they're number one, in maximizing revenue and looking at, data and analyzing. They're spending thousands and millions of dollars on analyzing data and how people, is it busier to book Saturday to Saturday? Well, yeah, then the price is going to go up. So I feel that it's a changing environment. I've worked in hospitality hotels for a long time, and I feel that how we did things in the past, now it's, it's almost like they don't care anymore. They don't care about the people. It's taken the personal touch away from it, and it's all about maximizing revenue, which is really sad, because like Gloria said, we love this industry. We all love traveling. We all want to go, and we all love it. And why don't they want us? We've got a group of 700 people that we're going to bring. Wouldn't they want that revenue? Well, now it's all a different mindset, because they realize they can get more money from an individual traveler than this group of 700. So it doesn't even kind of make sense, but I guess it makes sense revenue-wise. So when, groups are saying, well, we're bringing all these people, surely they want that. No, it's the opposite these days. It's really kind of weird, but the things are changing for sure.
Do you guys get that? To summarize
Does
that,
it make
what
sense?
she's saying
It doesn't make sense really, but I mean, you know what I mean.
Yeah. What she's saying is the hotels and the local tourism offices working with those various properties are saying, we only want to block this amount of rooms for group travel at the group price, which typically you would think is somewhat a discounted price. And we're gonna leave the other 75–80% open for FIT, free independent travelers, to get a higher revenue per room to offset their income, their
Travel's at
revenue.
a discount,
Which-
me, Joe Schmo going down the street ain't getting that.
Yeah, and you know, I mean, you know, before, I mean, there have been trends, like everything, you know, there's a cycle and there's trends. And you used to wait till last minute to get a discount, you know, because you could get a last minute discount. That's not today. You know, today if you wait, the air is going up every minute, you know, and the hotels are using these systems, these revenue management systems that they've paid to use, which maximizes the hotel. You know, so if you've got 100 rooms left to sell, the rate's going to be X amount, you know, $100, let's say. When you've only got 45 rooms left, the rate goes up, and as those rooms start dwindling, the price keeps going up and up and up. So in a room of this many people, you know, you could say to someone on an airline, what did you pay for your ticket? You know, I got mine for $150. Gloria paid $800 million for her ticket. Everybody pays a different price because technology has advanced to the point where it's not like it used to be, where, you know, somebody just makes up a rate and it's the same rate for the whole, you know, period. Now it's just up and down all the time.
Plus, I'm sure she didn't wait till the last minute to book her air because
did
she's
not.
been on board for months with us. 2 follow-up points. Lodging properties are now taking backup reservations for group business in many cases. So what that means is don't miss your deadlines. So if for some reason your group is not meeting and you cannot get that check signed by your president, for example, and get it to the powers to be, the tour operator, they get it to the resorts on time, they'll drop you and pick up that next backup group.
Can I just say one thing? A lot of the time, and it all goes with this whole technology thing, before, you know, in the old days, I could block some rooms at a hotel, and if the deposit was late, it was me manually doing it. Now it's managed by a system, and when you put the rooms in the system, you have to enter what the drop date is or the deposit date. So let's just say the deposit's due on a Friday and the check doesn't arrive by Friday. It's not the salesperson at the hotel that's dropping the lodging. It automatically, the system, you know, it's all these, you know, systems. It drops and then, gosh, they've resold it over the weekend. By the time the salesperson gets back to work, you could have lost your block. So that's why it is very important, because, you know, think about it now. It's technology has changed so much that it's not always a manual transaction that's happening, you know.
And to segue with that, I know there are some tour operators in this room that front monies for their people to make sure that they do not lose a damn dime.
If we know them, trust them.
Absolutely. You cannot expect that to be done. But the point is, you want to make sure that you are working with a valuable expert. You have a good relationship with your tour operators, your travel companies. I know Aileen's back there raising Club Med. It's really important that you are doing your due diligence.
Another thing that's happening on lodgings too is Steamboat and other areas, a club may book 8 condos. All of a sudden, the end of summer, they sold out their 8 condos. Oh, can we get 2 more condos? We're finding out that the lodging isn't going to give you if the space is available, they're not going to give you those 2 more condos at the rate you had. I'm finding out they're jumping the rate, and I have to go back and tell the club, yes, they'll give you 2 more condos, but it's gonna cost you 75 more per person. Do you still want it? So that's been happening quite a few ski areas nowadays.
We've got about 10 minutes left, so I'm going to move on. I do want to stress one more time, group travel is not always based on the best price. And I think Bill put it accurately, value added. What value are we offering our members? How well are we taking care of them? Are they going to go home with lasting memories, or are they going to come back with us the next year? It's not all price driven. Yes, you want to be sensitive. Yes, I ask them to sharpen their pencil, but it's the whole experience, value added. So thank you for sharing that. I'm going to move along over to senior discounts. Very quickly, some of the resorts offer senior pricing for their lift tickets. Some of them will require you to provide your ID to verify your age, whether it's domestic or international. Is there any other quick statement that we can make? Because I really want to give you the next one.
What's our next one? The left stuff? Okay, yeah, well, it's going to be covered there. We can cover it right there.
Go for it.
Okay, that's me. Okay. Lift tickets. Okay, so we all know, well, thank you, Sean. We all know that there are Epic passes and Icon passes, and a lot of groups have made the decision that this year they're going on 3 trips and they're all going to be Icon destinations. Or they're going on 4 trips and they're going to all be Epic destinations, because we do know that the Epic, these passes, Epic was their first. I know a lot of people are not enamored these days with Vail, but it's still a fabulous pricing. So just a quick analogy, and group tickets are becoming more and more expensive. If you try to get a group ticket in Jackson Hole, you're going to pay like $800 for a 5-day ticket. But if you buy an Icon pass, I know it's changing. The prices are now, they're dynamic. They're not static. Dynamic means they're going to change as they, and there are other resorts, and I don't ever like to call out specific resorts. I just gave that one as an example. But, certain resorts will price their lift tickets based on the date, the same way the airlines do with with how they put the prices in place. So it is very affordable and makes total sense if you're going to multiple destinations that are within an Icon or an Epic Pass, that you buy that. So very quick analogy, for a group lift ticket at a Vail Resort, a group price for a 3-day pass last year was $471.12. But if you bought an Epic Pass during a non-restricted day, it was $237. So that's just simple math, guys. Look at what you're buying and make the best decision for your lift tickets. Yes, ma'am.
I think the hardest thing with the Epic and the Icon passes is comparing apples to apples. Because Epic Pass has 25 oranges, and the Icon Pass has 26 apples, and they're not the same, and they only work at certain resorts, and it can be really confusing.
But that's why you need to do your research and talk to your tour operator.
Yep.
We have the details on that, and we can help you through it. And they're, both Icon and Epic have international destinations as well. Then there are, partner resorts where you can use a specific pass because they're partnering with that particular pass company. But they are the best deal. The most reasonable lift passes for your trips would be those passes if it works for you.
And the pass programs, the partner programs, may vary year to year. So Zermatt is on with the Icon Pass, and when we selected that destination, I specifically added Zermatt to our survey data. You may not know how Far West selects their locations, but basically, we survey all of our participants after each trip. And we collate it, we assemble it, analyze it. I provide the data to the Board of Trustees, share it with the Board of Directors, and make a recommendation where our members want to go. So when I added that to the survey, I held my breath, crossed my fingers, thinking, boy, I hope it's going to be valid in 2023, which at this point, it still is. But that could change on us. You know, people are making their survey votes based on that current data as well. That's how we function.
Well, it's hard for an individual skier to know, okay, what trips am I going on this year? I've got the plan for 2024. That's 2 years from now. I don't know what I'm going to be doing next week.
And then there are people that want to book out and block for, I mean, can I send you a check for 24? No.
Well,
Yeah,
Sun
but,
Valley
you know.
used to be Epic and now it's Icon. Or
So it does
Icon
But
and
another,
they swap.
another point I want to bring up is lift ticket refunds. They're a nightmare. They're a nightmare for the client and they're a nightmare for the tour operator. I personally think, this is just my thought, that eventually lift tickets are going to be a non-refundable product, which you will probably, I think it's heading in that direction. It's harder and harder to get those refunds, unless it's a medical issue that, you know, and there are already some resources that say when you buy that lift ticket, it's non-refundable. So that's another reason why you want to buy insurance. Because, I mean, I'm still fighting with a ski resort where I had a group in March. What is it? It's June. I don't have the money back yet. And it's just a single day ticket, and it's just a challenge. You know, and it's not that we don't want to give you the money back, but if we don't get it, we can't give it back. And I do think that it's trending in that direction.
This is something I'm going to share with you guys, and it is the last bullet point on the top section. Regarding the passes, resorts, and partner resorts, they may require you to reserve the days that you will be skiing before the trip. That's kind of been happening. However, if you decide not to ski one day, be sure that you cancel that day. Otherwise, they may cancel your whole rest of your reservation. So that was brought to my attention. So that's new, that's different. So just really, once again, you know, be as detail-oriented as you possibly can. Anything else about lift tickets, pass program?
Well, in reference to those, in reference to those reservations, that's something that happened during the pandemic to limit the number of people on vacation. There are very few places that are requiring reservations as far as I know, but it, again, like anything else, it could change tomorrow.
On Epic and Icon Pass, Sun Valley, you know, was not owned by Vail, wasn't a Vail resort. Their contract ended, so that's why they switched to Icon. I do know that Telluride has one more year with a contract with Vail Associates. So they're still Epic, but we don't know what'll happen after their contract ends because they're not owned by Vail.
Okay, good to know.
I mean, we could spend all day talking about travel. Seriously. I want to read to you my last, next to the last slide. Farmers Ski Association Travel Vision Statement. We believe that travel should be easy, it should be fun. It should be worthy of your time and have exceptional value. It should energize and transform. And above all else, it should be beyond the ordinary. So who knows where we'll be going in the future?
Did you go through a SpaceX flight?
I haven't got that past my board yet, but it's coming. Yes, yes. So I want to thank all of you guys for coming, participating. Your input, your feedback is fabulous. I welcome each and every one of you to email me, contact me, I know there's a lot of follow-up to be done in this crazy changing world of travel, but we're all in it for the long term. We love what we do. As you are exiting, Mary and Wanda are going to give you a little handout. And if you are a couple, I'm not sure I have as many as those of all of you here. If there are a couple, please take one. And if we have extras afterwards, we'll be happy to share those with you. Thank you guys very much. It will be on the website. Yep.
Thanks for having us.